Good morning. We're going to start in a minute. Good morning. We'll start in 1 minute.
Fun to watch.
To the Board of Regents meeting, our second day of our November meeting. I hope each of you had a great opportunity to explore Missoula yesterday and enjoy your evening in community. We had the opportunity to have a reception last night and be able to meet many of the Montana 10 students that we talked about yesterday. So it was just exciting to see all the young and thriving students here on campus. At the reception too, we also had an opportunity to honor Regent Nystuen. Regent Nystuen has been on the board now for about 6.5 years or so of his 7-year term, and this is likely his last public meeting. Our meetings in January usually conference calls, so we had the opportunity to let Bob know how much we honor and respect his contributions, not only the last 6.5 years on this board, but the 13 previous years on the Flathead Valley Community College Board. He's become just a go-to resource in this state for all things community college, two-year college. And we just thank you again, Regent Nystuen, for your service. So if you all would join me in thanking Bob for his service.
No. Great. That's enough. That's it. This is a momentous day because I was just telling my seatmate here, it was during the November board meeting a year ago that our granddaughter Natalie was born at the hospital here in Missoula. Regent Dombrowski said that all of a sudden they have a tradition here at St. Pat's that when a baby's born, they play the Brahms lullaby. And we were sitting on a Zoom call, and I always remember that where you were when your granddaughter was born. And I was with all of you, and I yelled out the door down the hall to Kim, "It's a girl!" So here she is 1 year later. So this is a bit, but thank you all for the wonderful reception last night. As I said, if you were there, I didn't see that coming. I was taken aback by it, but thank you for all the kind words, the gifts, and the well wishes. The only thing I would leave you with is, I ain't done yet. While I'm not in an official capacity as a member of the Regents, my heart is with all of you and your teams. So call me, let me know how I can be of service to you, because if it's good for you, it's good for me, it's good for our state, it's good for our students, and it's good for our university system. So stay engaged, stay involved, and let me know how I can continue to work for you and with you. So thank you again. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Bob. And before we dive in, I know there was a missed introduction yesterday. Commissioner Christian, I know you wanted to introduce a new staff member.
Well, I don't think it was missed. I think we just saved it for kind of a grand effect today. But yeah, I did fail to introduce one of the newest members of our team at OCHI, and an important member to this board because she'll be active in helping to run our meetings, Ange King. And it is Ange because we have 3 Angelas, so this is Ange. Ange King worked in the Gear Up programs, some for us in the last few years, and before that worked in outreach and admissions at University of Wyoming. So good higher ed background and already being a super productive member of our team. And so welcome, Ange.
Well, let's dive right in. I know we got a meeting, a joint meeting with the Education Interim Committee, which we're really, really excited about with us and the committee. And that's going to start at 9 o'clock. And we still have to do some rearranging of the chairs to get started at 9. So we'll just jump into our first couple remarks of the day. I'll turn it over to Dylan Klappmeyer, who's representing Governor Gianforte. Dylan.
Thank you, Chair Lozar. It's great to be with all of you here on the University of Montana campus, and appreciate President Bodnar hosting us. For those that I haven't met, I'm Dylan Klappmeyer, Governor Gianforte's Education Policy Advisor. I'll keep my remarks relatively brief this morning. The governor's looking forward to joining everyone this afternoon and giving an update at the joint board meeting. Yesterday was amazing. I was inspired by all of the updates that we heard from the OCHI staff. It's exciting to see enrollment tick up across the system. I was especially pleased to see Dr. Mclean's report that American Indian enrollment is also up, and that we're forming new partnerships with our tribal campuses. I think that's incredibly important, and it's something that the governor's spoken about before. A theme yesterday was kind of unifying the university system and getting our tribal colleges involved with that process is huge. So thanks for all of the work that Angela's doing. President Bodnar and President Cruzado's updates on what they're doing to expand private partnerships with all of the affiliated campuses is great to hear. There's lots of positive examples, and it sounds like everyone is on board with expanding those. That's a huge priority for the governor. He's recently created a position within the Department of Labor, within the Commissioner's office, focused solely on workforce development, working with the K-12 schools and with the higher education system, and with our private sector partners to see what's working and expand on those. And just the things coming out of the university system and all the campuses are a huge asset to that. The Montana 10, the governor talks a lot about making sure that college is affordable, that we're addressing the underlying costs of higher education for students, that we're focused on on-time graduation rates. So it was awesome to hear from those students yesterday about how that program's working. And I forget which regent made the comment, but seeing how that success tracks future into their careers, that's going to be huge. So this has been a busy week, as everyone knows, in education. I've been jumping back and forth between the Regents meeting here and the Board of Public Education, and the K-12 public schools. Superintendent Arnson and the Board of Public Education are doing a lot of great things and having some great conversations about expanding opportunities for our K-12 students as well, and looking forward to hearing more about that this afternoon when the board joins us. As well as the Education Interim Committee, I've been working closely with PAD, their staffer, and I think we've got a lot of opportunities here over the interim across the K-12 through post-secondary system to really expand opportunities for students. It's been a rough couple of years, as we're going to hear with the Youth Risk Behavior Survey here, but now's the perfect time to look at evaluate what we've been doing and move forward. And I think we've got some great opportunities, and I'm encouraged by everything that I've been hearing this week. Both the governor and I have had the chance to get out and visit with campuses, and that's been great. The governor just wrapped up his 56 county tour, and all along the way he was stopping on campuses and in schools across the state. And I've been trying to, meet with as many of your staffers as I can, and they've been great. I've had the opportunity to visit our community colleges, some of the affiliated four-year campuses, as well as with staff at the flagship institutions, and it's been awesome to see what's happening on the ground. I've also been working really closely with Commissioner Christian's staff on some priorities that I think are going to have a positive impact. With unemployment at record lows, we need to start engaging populations for the workforce that haven't been engaged previously. So I'm excited about the Second Chance Pell Grants coming to the state. I think that's going to be a huge opportunity for engaging with our education programs within our corrections system, and making sure that when people exit that system, that they've got skills, that they've got opportunities, and that they're not going to end up back in the system. And more importantly, that they're going to be contributing to much needed areas of our economy in the state. So I've been pleased to work with Deputy Commissioner Tessman and his staff on Second Chance Pell Grants, as well as myself and the governor's healthcare policy advisor have been working with the pilot program we heard about yesterday, the SHIO, the Higher Education Office's focus on bringing healthcare workers to the state. That, in conjunction with what's going on with MSU's nursing program, is going to be a huge asset to our state. So healthcare worker recruitment has been a high priority for the governor, but in addition to recruitment, we need to be marketing those careers to students in middle school and high school, so that we're not only bringing in qualified healthcare workers, but that we're producing them in the state as well. And I think that there's some great things happening on that front. Beyond that, like I said, the governor is really looking forward to meeting with everyone this afternoon when he gets here for the joint meetings, as well as the legislative meeting that will start here soon. So I'm going to leave my remarks at that, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments or feedback as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. Does any board members have any questions for Dylan? Yeah, Dylan, thank you for always representing the administration, for the governor, and appreciate your update today. We too look forward to the Board of Education meeting this afternoon. So thank you, Dylan. Now we'll turn it over to our good friend, Superintendent Arnson.
Good morning, Chair Lozar, Commissioner, and members, and everyone that is participating in education today and into the future. As a Superintendent of K-12, I'm honored to be a partnership in a P20 look, as we are lifelong learners, and we should always remember that however we learn, wherever we learn, and whatever we learn, it is exceedingly important, because it builds Montana as it builds us as individuals. So just want to say it's a pleasure to be on campus. I was going to wear my burgundy today to shout out, my economics degree that I got. And then I thought, oh, I know, I've got my education degree from, that other brick and mortar down the road. So I decided, to be neutral today, but I want to give a great shout out and a thank you for everything that you are doing. I had breakfast this morning with the student senators, and I was very, very pleased that we're aligned in so many ways. And in education, as I said, as lifelong learners, we need to pick something to champion. And if we can champion our children and our great state, then our future is very, very bright. So I appreciate the conversation that we had this morning. I did have this passed out, and this is fresh off the press. For 3 decades, the state of Montana, every other year, has participated in a CDC survey that students take. So this is just a small recollection. The data is by county, the data is by school. So if a school district would like to get this data, they can definitely call and we can give them that data. But we are very protective of personal student data as much as we are of health data. There's some really interesting things in here. Our drinking is down in our youth population. Smoking is down. But 41% of our students who took this last year, within 30 days of taking the survey, 41 students said that they were basically clinically depressed. 41%. So we have a lot of work to do. And why I shout this out is, as adults, especially learned adults, it's our responsibility to seek solutions in how we can do this. I applaud our 10 teacher prep programs, because taking this to a classroom with a teacher is exceedingly important. But a teacher also does so many things. So the awareness in our teacher prep program as we build our Montana teachers for suicide awareness, mental health, must be there. 60% of the teachers that I license, and counselors and superintendents, 60% are Montana made. 40% come from other. So it's professionally developing as they begin their career wherever they may be. And a majority of our 821 schools across our state that serve our almost 160,000 students are rural. It's very difficult to find those healthcare workers. But we're looking for a balance from teachers to all those professional healthcare workers to serve our students moving forward, so we can drop that number of 41, so those students feel supported, because they are our future. I also want to share that some other news. We had a law conference, and it was Monday. We had 117 participate. It's the first time we've ever done that before, and we did have a professor from the university here, from the law school, Professor Johnstone, that participated, and he brought in the discussion of parental rights and how parents and board members can get along, and how we can move our students and education forward, not being stuck. I was very proud that he was part of this. I believe, and it's just something about Elsie, I had 2 older brothers, so I knew they were going to catch me regardless of what altercation we had. So I learned early on to stand and to move into the storm. These are discussions that we have to have. I talked about mental health, parents and things, and discussions in boardrooms. It's not just about the mask, it's not about the vaccination, it's about how we educate our children and putting believability in what you do and what I do in public education in K-12. We also had an individual that discussed gender issues. We also had someone who discussed critical race theory. These are issues that are, I'll just say from a media standpoint, are thorny. But if we don't talk about these things, from mental health all the way into how people view who they are, our education system is not being responsive. We must listen and understand. And I'm asking that of you. I know our great legislators are here. I know that we have policymakers that are amongst us. My purpose is to say, let's make a Montana-made solution in all of this. Let's make sure that we get together, that we hear Montana's voices, that we move forward for Montana, and we keep those national things at bay. We want to make sure that our Montana children have that Montana value in their heart. Positively, we have some great things that are happening with lots of flexibilities. We asked the Board of Public Ed last year if we could open up some of their rules on licensing. I mentioned 60% of our great teachers and our educators and our teacher leaders are Montana made. But we do not have pure reciprocity, and maybe we shouldn't. But we have brought together research teams, we've brought together task forces, lots of Montanans. And we're going to be going to the Board of Public Ed the first of the year with some recommendations to see what it is, who it is, and how this individual will instruct our youth moving forward. We're also looking at our teacher prep programs. And I want to give a great shout out to our Council of Deans and making sure that our deans of education are supported. They have the heavy lifting with everything that I just previously mentioned, because they are creating that future classroom. We also then are embarking on accreditation. That's huge. What is a quality education in K-12 look like? That is a lot of lifting. I am saying this to you is that I need your help. I need you not to just serve on a committee and not just to show up, but I need your voice. It is your voice that's going to determine, when we come out of this pandemic, what public education is going to look like. Let's be bold, let's be thoughtful, let's be meaningful, but let's always put our students first. I also want to share positively, we have the largest enrollment in public education than we have ever had. Parents are choosing to have their children be in public education. What a great opportunity we have to put believability into that classroom together. Let's make it a safe place. Let's make it sure that it's the best place. Let's make sure together that we do support our children. I know, Chair and Commissioner, I could talk a lot, and I know you're under a very short time. I am honored to be in front of you as many times as you have allowed me. I know I give my remarks ahead of time, and if I could just leave it at this. We are celebrating excellence. Let's bring back that celebration of success. We have a Teacher of the Year that's coming from Arlie, and I know you awarded and applauded him yesterday. I just want to give a great shout out to the community that supports this teacher. We came so close last year. We were in the running of 1 of 4 for the National Teacher of the Year. And in Montana, from my standpoint, my parents were public school teachers, myself for 23 years. Every single public school teacher has that ability to be the best. Let's give them that ability. So with that, Commissioner, Chair, board members, thank you for honoring public education today. But hear my words. Let's move this forward for the betterment of all of our children across our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. I totally agree with you. Let's continue to work together and move public education forward in Montana. And we look forward to joining you in the discussion this afternoon with the governor of the Board of Ed meeting. So wonderful update, and thank you, for, as always, for coming and attending the Board of Regents meetings. We are going to take about a 10-minute break to accommodate reshifting some of the chairs up here to invite our friends from the legislature to join us in a joint meeting. So we will be back at about 9:10. the chairs in place, and we'll kick off the joint committee meeting here in a minute. We'll start in a minute. I certainly want to welcome our good friends from the Montana Legislature joining us this morning, our friends from the Education Interim Committee. This is, we haven't met together for a couple of years, and this is always one of the more important meetings that the Board of Regents has the opportunity to participate in with each and every one of you. So we're excited to be at the same table and discussing a couple really important topics that I know that the Board of Regents has been working on, the OPI has been working on, and certainly the Education Interim Committee. And those topics really are focusing on teacher preparation as well as resident-student success, two things that are particularly important for the future of the state of Montana. So we welcome our friends to the table. We'll do some quick introductions, but I'll turn it over to Chair McClafferty for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Commissioner Lazar. Good morning, everybody. I am Senator Edie McClafferty, and I represent the great city of Butte and Jefferson County. I'd like to thank you for having us here today with the Legislative Interim Committee. I think this is a great opportunity for all of us. Just a little bit, I want to let you know what we've done the last couple of days. We've had a very informative past couple of days. We toured the Montana State Prison and learned about their education programs. We stopped in Drummond and saw the wonderful programs that they offer to their students. And then yesterday, we also had the opportunity to tour with the Board of Public Education. We went to the Jefferson Early Learning Center, the Willard Alternative Program, and the Ag Ed Center and Meat Processing plant here in Missoula. And we were all very inspired to see the wonderful programs that are offered to our students here in Missoula and Drummond, and actually throughout Montana, because I know there are some great programs. A lot different from when we all went to school, and it's very uplifting. And I know that education is important to each and every one of us in this room, and it is an honor to be part of a group of people who help guarantee that our students here in Montana have a quality education. So thank you for having us today.
Thank you, Chair McClafferty. I think before we dive into our first topic, it makes probably the most sense for us to do a quick round of introductions. Maybe we could start with Senator O'Brien.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, Mr. Commissioner, the whole crew. Shannon O'Brien, students, great to see you all. Shannon O'Brien, Senate District 46, which includes close to where we're sitting right now. In the University District, goes up the Rattlesnake in Missoula and all the way up to Sealy Lake. And I serve on Taxation Committee and Education Committee and Agriculture Committee, or I did during the regular session, and now I'm on Revenue and Education Interim Committee. Thanks very much for having us. Appreciate it. I'm sorry, one last thing. I am also a product of the University of Montana. Go Grizz.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation to be a part of your committee this morning. My name is Linda Rexton. I'm a representative from Polson and the Greater Lake County. This is my first term as a representative, and I am a proud graduate of Eastern Montana College. I had an opportunity to meet the chancellor and the new chancellor, and I cannot help but feel that experience at Eastern, which I remember vividly, the classes I took, provided such a great foundation for me that set me up for my doctoral work at UCLA. And at any rate, I am extremely grateful to the Montana University system for starting me off well.
Hello, everyone. Great to be with you. I'm Governor Gianforte's Education Policy Advisor, Dylan Klattmeyer.
Good morning. My name is Wadette Cruzado, President of Montana State University. Go Cats!
Good morning. My name is Representative Sarah Novak. I am representative of House District 77. I live in Anaconda. I represent the majority of my little community as well as all of Granite County. I am proud to be part of the Education Interim Committee. I am an educator, a former special ed teacher, and now a special ed administrator for one of our special ed co-ops in the state. And I'm a proud graduate of Western, go Dogs, and I have my master's from Northern, so good Montana education.
Good morning. My name is Bob Nystuen. I'm a member of the Montana Board of Regents. I come from Lakeside, Montana. Recently retired as president of Glacier Bank after 41 years in the banking. Married to Kim, who is a proud graduate from here and was a high school Spanish teacher in Kalispell for 13 years. So, and got her teaching certificate via MSU Billings. So it's all good. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Joyce Dombrowski. I serve on the Montana Board of Regents. I live here in Missoula. Proud to be here, so welcome to our community. I'm a product of the Montana University system as well, public school in Fairfield. That would be Go Eagles. And then my undergraduate degree from MSU, and then I have a certificate of public health from UM. So again, very gracious that you're here and look forward to the conversation.
Good morning, Commissioner, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Ed Hill. I represent House District 28. That's Havre, born, raised, retire there. My education is a little bit different. After retiring from 41 years of the railroad, more VOTEC type of stuff, welding, plumbing, carpentry, heavy machinery. But I am a freshman legislator, just happy to be on the Education Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Mafi Funk. I represent South Central Helena, which has been listed in the top 10 neighborhoods in the nation, just saying. And while I was not lucky enough to be born in Montana, I was Montana, and I was smart enough to marry one. So I think that counts more. And I just want to thank everyone here
everyone in public education for what you have done over the past year and a half plus to make sure that our students continue to have quality education, that you take care of them in so many ways that are academics, but also just to make them belong, feel a part of a community. You all have done an extraordinary job, and I know we are all grateful for your work. Thank you.
And again, my name is Casey Lozar, and I'm the chair of the Board of Regents. I've been on the board for the last 6 years or so, and I'm a Polson pirate, but I live in Helena now. I run a research and policy institute for the Federal Reserve, but got my career started as a middle school geography and humanities teacher, so public education is dear to my heart.
Hello, welcome. Clay Christian. Have the pleasure to oversee the Montana University System as Commissioner of Higher Education. I too, Polson Pirates, go Pirates. Product of the MUS, although in this role now, I guess it's kind of go referees or something. I'm in the middle.
I'm Fred Anderson. I represent House District 20 in Great Falls, and graduated from high school in Harlowtown, the engineers. Got my undergraduate at Northern and my graduate degrees in Colorado State.
I almost had to take my glasses off to talk. Sorry about that. Okay, itamos ko nato ni kasitsanamatsano po ni Stu Makoi Sapo. What I said was, good morning. I said, hello, good morning. I'm proud to be here with everybody. My name's Tyson Runningwolf. I'm from House District 16. It's Native American History Month, so I thought I'd give a little bit of Blackfoot while I spoke today. And like I said, I'm from House District 16, Amaskapi Pikani. That's the Blackfeet Reservation in Glacier County. And I'm a Grizz alumni from 2001 with forestry degree. Thank you to be here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Breanne Rogers, born and raised in Bozeman, a product of the K-12 system down there. Honored to be with you all today, serving on the Regents for about 3 years now.
Thanks, Bree. Good morning, Todd Buchanan from Red Lodge, Montana. It's a pleasure to be appointed to this board for a second term. I served on the Board of Regents from 07 to 14 and was in front of this committee a handful of times, pushing Common Course numbering and transferability and things that we're really proud we've progressed. So excited to be working with you. And as proud as I am to be here supporting the entire university system, I can't go without saying it this weekend. Let's go Bobcats.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Sexton. I am the student regent on the Montana Board of Regents. I'm from Billings, Montana. I grew up in Shepherd. I was homeschooled, and I now go to MSU Billings. I'm studying accounting, math, and economics, and this is my second year on the board. I was reappointed this last year by Governor Jean Forte. And while my appearance might suggest otherwise, I am staying neutral on the game. So go everyone tomorrow. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Senator Dan Solomon. I represent Senate District 47, which is the southern half of Lake County and part of Missoula County. I guess I've had the pleasure of chairing Senate Ed for 3 sessions, also on the finance committees and, of course, agriculture. That's what I do in my spare time, it seems like. And graduate of MSU, so I think there's something like Go Cats Go, is that? Yes. So in case, sorry, Seth, this week it's Go Cats Go. So thank you.
Good morning again. Boy, it's really incredible to be around such a pedigree here from everyone from the university system and as well. But again, we're very grateful that public education is in the spotlight, and let's all work together. I'm Superintendent Elsie Aronson. Thank you.
Good morning. Russ Temple. I'm out of Chester. I represent 4 counties, Cascade, Hill, Liberty, and Choteau. A total of 6,800 square miles. Goes from Great Falls to Havre to Whitlash. And I've been on the Education Committee now. This is my third session, and I really enjoy working with everybody here, and thank you much.
Well, and thank you. My name is Seth Bodner. I have the privilege of being the president here at the University of Montana. I want to welcome you all to our campus. It's so great to have you here. Like Representative Funk, I am also was not born in Montana, but had the privilege of becoming a fifth-generation Montanan by marriage. Married a wonderful woman who is a product of the Montana Public Schools and the Montana University system. So attended MSU, and we are a house divided in my family, which is a little known fact. But more importantly, she and I are the parents of 3 kiddos in our schools, and we just finished up parent-teacher conferences last week and walked away with just such incredible gratitude for the teachers across our entire state and for the many people around this table and around this entire room who are focused on that next generation of Montanans. And so I'm deeply grateful to all of you for your service in that capacity, and we're so happy to have you here at the University of Montana today. And of course, go Grizz.
Well, thank you all for the introductions. We do have one additional introduction. Our colleague from the Board of Regents, Regent Lauren Bao, I believe, is calling in. Regent Bao, can you hear us?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Lozar. My name is Lauren Bao. I'm a regent. Born and raised in Highwood, Montana, so I'm a mountaineer. I live in Big Sky now. I apologize, I'm not there in person. I'm also the head coach for the girls varsity basketball team here in Big Sky. So go Lady Bighorns.
Thank you, Lauren. Well, as I had mentioned, there's a couple topics that we wanted to explore with the Education Interim Committee this morning. I think we'll dive right in with a series of presentations. I would just note that we hope this to be a discussion, so feel free to add comments, ask questions. I don't think we need to necessarily follow Robert's rules this morning, so just dive right in when something piques your attention during these presentations. So the first topic area I know that we wanted to discuss was teacher preparation. Certainly the state of Montana has a known challenge with teacher shortages in this state, and particularly in rural Montana. And I know this has been a primary topic for OPI, for the legislature, for us, to really try to find Montana solutions to this particular issue. So I think we've been working really well across all the units in the public education system. So we look forward to getting an update, and it's a presentation today by Angela Mclean, or Dr. Mclean. So we invite Dr. Mclean to the podium, and we'll also have presentations from Allison Harmon as well. So we'll turn it over to Dr. Mclean.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, members of the board, members of the committee. It is really great to be here with all of you this morning and to have the privilege to be able to represent the Montana University system in what is one of the most important conversations that we can have about the next generation of Montanans. I want to thank the committee, and I also want to thank the board for their leadership on the conversation of educator recruitment in Montana. It seems like it was just yesterday that a group of Highline school administrators came to the Board of Regents in Havre and spoke about the challenges they were facing when it came to recruiting licensed teachers for every position in their district. You, as a Board of Regents, acted swiftly. You directed our Office of the Commissioner to go to work and do all we could to help our K-12 schools to mitigate the educator recruitment challenges all across the state. I will tell you that I was incredibly impressed, and I think you were incredibly impressed as well, when I reported out in 2019 that each of the Montana University System Ed Prep programs, as well as our 2 tribal Ed Prep programs and our private Ed Prep programs, had turned over every single stone that they possibly could to address educator recruitment in Montana. They sought federal dollars. They sought partnerships in a very unique and amazing way, and what they did was nothing short of extraordinary. And in just a moment, you're going to hear about a couple of those efforts, specifically as they emanated from Montana State University. You're going to hear about the Masters of Arts in Teaching, a unique and Montana-made model. You're going to hear about the Montana Rural History Teaching Project, and proficiency-based learning from my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Allison Harmon. They have done remarkable work there at Montana State University, along with all of our colleagues at the Montana Council of Deans, because they heard the Board of Regents, and they heard the legislature, and they heard the superintendent loud and clear that we all need to work together to consider every opportunity that we could to put our school districts in a different place 5 and 10 years down the road from where we are today. So I want to thank our EPPs, and I want to thank you as Montana policymakers and lawmakers for bringing this conversation to the table and making sure that everyone across the state in the education community knows that it is an important priority. One of the things that I think is so exciting about this conversation that we'll have with you about House Bill 403 and Grow Your Own Educators in Montana, as well as the conversations that you're going to hear about from Dr. Harmon, is that these are a lot about growing our own Montana professionals to serve our students in the communities where they live. Later on in the agenda this morning, you're going to hear from my colleague from the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Ed about resident student access. Director Scott Lemon is going to get up here and talk to you about that. I think what is so exciting about the Grow Your Own Educator initiatives is that they really are the epitome of resident student access initiatives, growing our own educators in the communities where they will live and serve students for the next generation. It doesn't get any better around resident student access than that. And so I think there's a really nice and important and strong connection. I would also like to thank the Legislative Committee for their leadership and their support of House Bill 403 last spring. And specifically, I would like to thank Representative Running Wolf, right down here at the end of this side of the table, for his persistence. He brought this forward in the last legislative session before this, and it didn't make it all the way out. This legislative session, because of this committee, and because of the voice and the power that you put behind it, it made its way all the way to the governor's desk. And I want to thank all of you, because it is really, I think, part of what I indicated to you last spring, the missing piece for Montana. And what you did by putting a $500,000 appropriation, the first time ever for a Grow Your Own Educator model that would be state funded in this way, what you did there was really quite remarkable. So I'd like to circle back to the conversation that we had last spring during that legislative committee. For those of you that are on the Board of Regents, I'll just speak to some of the points that I highlighted as part of that conversation that day. First of all, I pointed to Department of Labor and Industry labor data that illustrated in 2017 that Montana educator prep programs, of which there are 10, are graduating enough completers to meet demand in the areas of elementary, middle, and high school teachers. In their report, they indicated that not only were they graduating enough completers to meet demand that year, but that they were expected to do so through 2028. Additionally, I highlighted for you that afternoon that the Northwest Regional Education Labs had conducted a study in partnership with our Montana University System Rural Educator Recruitment and Retention Task Force on educator shortages and mobility across the state of Montana. A couple of key things that that study pointed to. The first one is that Montana had a recruitment issue, and that recruitment issue was most deeply amplified in Montana's most rural districts. And as Superintendent Arnson pointed out earlier this morning, most of Montana's schools are in rural communities across the state. So while some of our urban hubs do struggle on occasion to hire appropriately licensed educators, the recruitment issues are most deeply amplified in our most rural communities across the state. Additionally, the other piece that emanated from that report was this. It is that Montanans are more likely to apply for and accept teaching jobs close to where they live. Makes complete sense, right? At about the same time, the University of Montana Western, my alma mater, they were working with Blackfeet Community College, and they were working on a federally funded Grow Your Own Educator program up there. And they had just graduated their first group of completers of that program, and they successfully placed 3/4 of them in the Browning Public Schools. So we had several different data points, and we had a model that had just driven teachers out into schools in the community where they lived. So what this told us in the Montana University system was that what we needed to do was we needed to strategically and intentionally align our resources to the most rural schools across the state. We also needed to intentionally align resources in the areas where we might not be graduating enough completers, areas like career and technical education, areas like family and consumer science, music, sometimes library. So through an intentional and a focused effort, we could get to a different place in the state of Montana when it came to most fully addressing our educator recruitment challenges. And so that is really what I think got the conversation about House Bill 403 across the finish line. Is we had seen last legislative session, the governor put forth a remarkable bill to begin to address beginner teacher salaries. We had seen our legislature, you folks at the table here, make moves to make sure that we had a quality educator loan forgiveness mechanism in place for folks. We had taken steps to make sure that once we hired folks in some of these districts, if they chose to pursue national board certification, that they would be awarded with a state-funded stipend. And we talked last spring at the committee about how Grow Your Own models would allow us to most fully address, as a state, our need to once again strategically and intentionally align resources in our rural communities and in those content areas where they were needed the most. And that was that conversation that we all had together, and we began our work upon House Bill 403, upon its passage in the office of the commissioner. So the governor signed it in May, and we went to work creating a request for proposal in our office, and we didn't waste any time. A couple of the things that were outlined in the proposal line up directly with the piece of legislation that was authored by Representative Running Wolf. And so a few things that we asked for in our request for proposal from our folks that would put in for these resources is we asked for them to demonstrate a K-12 and a post-secondary partnership. Pretty easy, right? Additionally, if a post-secondary school was going to partner with a K-12 school, the K-12 school had to have a spot on the Montana Quality Critical Educator Shortage List. So that means that they have had struggles to hire a teacher and that they were on that list. Additionally, we asked that they establish a junior or a senior high school cohort model using dual enrollment to deliver the Grow Your Own Educator model. Additionally, we asked in the request for promising proposals that they include a work-based learning component. And if you look at a Manufacturing Institute study in 2015, it connects clearly the importance of a work-based learning component to students staying in a field and then matriculating into post-secondary studies in a given field. So that was directly aligned with the legislation, and it makes complete sense. Additionally, each of the partners had to propose how they would meet a dollar-for-dollar match. Applicants were also considered to establish an Educators Rising program, which is a career and technical student organization. And Montana had, through some of its work, already started some of those Educators Rising partnerships. And because we know that there is such strength between students' experience in CTSOs and their post-secondary endeavors, I put that in the RFP. Additionally, one of the things that we asked our applicants to consider is how they could establish a local-based task force of stakeholders, folks who were boots on the ground, engaged with the students in their program, and they were engaged in a way that would keep the students in the program and see them to completion of them. And so it was really remarkable. We got the bill through the legislature, I think, before the end of April. And then it was on the governor's desk, and middle to late May, it saw the governor's signature. We got it in our office, and we're ready upon the governor's signature to get it out. We wanted to make sure we had the funds in place, and once we did, we pushed it out the door, put it online, and indicated to folks that the application for proposals was out there. By early August, I had 3 conference calls lined up with 3 folks who had submitted proposals. And we outlined the strengths, we outlined the promise, and we also talked about how they could strengthen what they put in here. Because I believe, and I think the committee believes, that we need to do this very well. This is the very first time that our state has seen an appropriation for Grow Your Own. And while we think there might be some federal funds on the way specific to Grow Your Own, our campuses have found resources to deliver some promising programs with federally funded with federally funded Grow Your Own. But what we know we need to do with this program is deliver it very well. And that is why I made sure that we even put in the ask for the proposals, that they were very promising. So I will tell you, we came up with 3 remarkable proposals, and now I would like to share some of the highlights of those proposals with each of you. So, the first promising proposal that I'll highlight is one with Stone Child College, and they are a 4-year standalone institution that students can matriculate in and earn their education degree. Bonnie Rosette is the applicant from that campus, and a couple of unique things that I want to point out is she aligned quickly her partnership with Rocky Boy and Box Elder schools. And so the graduates of her program will be directly plugged into both of those local high schools and elementary schools. Additionally, Bonnie was very interested in embedding the Cree language in what these students would be studying, and thus working with students on. And so the work-based learning opportunities that she will engage students with through her program will be delivered using the Cree language. And I think that is a unique, one-of-a-kind model designed to support students into the profession and keep them there. And very exciting, she has worked tirelessly to put together the infrastructure to deliver these courses at the high schools and start next January. Now keep in mind what we were seeing with each of these proposals was the high schools that they were about to partner with to deliver these programs, they already had their schedules laid out. And high school students typically fill out their schedules for the following year, starting in January or February. So what our applicants were up against was really a lot of infrastructure that was already in place at the local level. And so what they had to do was build infrastructure and build partnerships and get everything off the ground. And I think every single one of them would tell you that I was on the call or sending emails because of the importance of getting them off the ground so that I could come here to you and say they're ready to go in January. And so our campuses worked extraordinarily well to do exactly that. And so what you see here is, I think, a one-of-a-kind model titled Grow Your Own Aspiring Educators, and that is being delivered by Bonnie Rosette up at Stonechild College. And now, one of the other things I would just point to with Stonechild College is they have a good track record of preparing students right there already for placement in the Rocky Boy schools and placement in the Box Elder schools. And what this will do is get students in that pipeline in a more strategic way while they're in high school. The next partnership was through Montana State University Northern. And this came as a result of the good work of Dr. Curtis Smeeby and Darlene Sellers, who was the former Dean of Education up there. And their program is titled Teachers of Promise Pathway. And I'll send along just a couple of postcards that they have used to grow interest in their program. And as you can see here, they have a number of courses already ready for students to take starting in January, 18 credit hours. Additionally, the number of students that they anticipate next spring will be 12 juniors and seniors. The work-based learning will happen in the K-5 setting, and I will pass these around. Additionally, they were quick to work with Great Falls College, who is the next slide. So remarkable partnerships shaping up in a very short time to be able to deliver this important work and deliver on the promise of grow your own educators. And so I'm just going to pass these around. There's 2 postcards here that he is using to engage with parents and with students and with all community stakeholders to communicate about Grow Your Own Educator up at MSU Northern. Now, the Great Falls Montana State University partnership will specifically allow next fall the Introduction to Education course to happen at CMR and at Great Falls High School. And Great Falls has been a long leader in the conversation about educators rising and working to address their own educator needs. Then the final grantee that I would point you to is Blackfeet Community College. And this was a new approach for them. Blackfeet Community College, in partnership with the University of Montana Western, has done an excellent job at developing and strengthening their Grow Your Own model up there. And so for them to pivot and to be able to offer dual enrollment courses for juniors and seniors in high school was something entirely different. The lead applicant up there was Dee Lynn Hoyt at Blackfeet Community College, and she partnered once again with her colleague and friend Vicki Howard from the University of Montana Western. Their project title is Native Early Experiences in Teaching. These are the courses that are going to be offered here, and you see the Pekuni history there. So a real focus on tribal language, tribal history, making sure that students are best equipped to serve the students in the districts where they will ideally be placed. Then what I think is most exciting about this model is, if you'll go back to my opening remarks about the placement of the teachers from the Grow Your Own model in Browning. So she has placed 3/4 of her first cohort in the Browning Public Schools. So when the students who are dual enrollment students this spring complete their semester at Blackfeet Community College ahead of being done with their high school semester, they will then go into those teachers that were placed as a result of the first cohort. They'll go into their classroom, and that is where they will conduct their field experience. And so I think that's really quite remarkable, and they will get credit for that field experience. Now, one of the things that I have encouraged each of our grantees to focus on is making sure that we're deliberate and thoughtful in providing the dual enrollment courses and in supporting students and their families through this process. Additionally, making sure that we have a pathway that is sustainable, and that's something that they had to demonstrate in their grant application. So what now they are doing is they're focusing on moving from spring semester into a summer effort, into a fall effort, into a spring effort, into a summer effort. And on almost every conversation, we visit about reducing the time to degree for these students. And that is something that I think Regent Buchanan would be very pleased for. We think that there's a connection between reducing time to degree, reducing cost to degree, and getting students out into the classrooms where they're needed the most. So with that, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, I will conclude my presentation and open it up for any questions if you should have them.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mclean, for a wonderful presentation. The floor is open for any questions or comments for Dr. Mclean.
Thank you, Chair Lozar. Thank you, Dr. Mclean. It's good to say those words together, Dr. Mclean. It is a partnership, and I just want to reiterate to all the policymakers and everyone that's in this room and across that we are working diligently, and it can't be in isolation. We're working together. So thank you for your good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Dr. Mclean, congratulations. Just thanks for your for expediting this. It sounds like you've done a lot of work in a very short period of time to get this up and off the ground, and the situation is urgent, and you all seem to understand that, so thanks.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Mclean, for doing what Senator O'Brien kind of laid out of getting on this right away. You know, it's so important for the state of Montana, and we thank you for diving right in, and for all the campuses who have put forward these really creative, innovative solutions to growing our own teachers. It's wonderful to see. So thank you for your leadership, and also wanted to thank Representative Running Wolf for your leadership in moving this so diplomatically through the legislative process. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
So with that, I think we'll transition to our next couple topics, and our presenter will be Dr. Harmon. Welcome, Dr. Harmon.
Thank you, Chair Lozar and Chair McCafferty and Commissioner and board members and committee members. It's such an honor for me to be here today and talk about all the work of lots of people at MSU and beyond MSU to address some of the things that have been raised this morning by the superintendent and also by Dr. Mclean. So let me start here by saying that let's go to the next slide and I'll kick this off. So I'd like to just set some rural education context. Glasses on here. So you all know that a lot of our districts are rural. We're in fact the most rural state in the union when it comes to the percentage of school districts that are considered rural. Montana has 819 schools. Only 6% of those serve more than 500 students. Means more than half have fewer than 100 students. 92 of those schools have only one teacher. 65 of those schools are considered one-room schoolhouses. So I always like to keep reminding myself of those statistics. It's easy to forget when you've been locked down in Bozeman for a long time. But this is the context that we're working in. Currently, more than 2/3 of the teacher vacancies are in those rural districts. And so this is the issue. This is the issue we're working on. So we know that strong rural schools are what hold rural communities together, in addition to supporting the growth, development, and well-being of Montana's youth. This is why we're doing the kind of programs that I'm about to tell you about. So I'm going to start with the Master of Arts in Teaching. This is a program that was designed by MSU faculty and stakeholders. It's a one-year graduate program that leads to initial teacher licensure. Oops. Okay, if people would stop sending me emails right now, I could actually see my notes. Okay. So for students who are seeking a secondary education license, you should have a bachelor's degree in a teachable subject before entering the program. For students seeking elementary licenses, a liberal arts degree is an excellent background. The program takes an additional 2 to 3 months if you're looking to get an elementary degree. It's not a graduate program for existing teachers. We have other Master of Education programs for that purpose. The aim of this program is to prepare new teachers, which is what we need most. So the Praxis Test, which normally comes after teacher education but before licensure, is the screening tool used to admit students, ensuring that they possess the subject content knowledge and skills before they enter the program. It's a program that's delivered entirely online, with the exception of one 7-day experience at MSU in the summer. So students complete a teacher residency in a school while they complete the program. And in doing so, they're completing the practicum and student teaching experiences that are required. This program supports the recruitment and retention of teachers in Montana by enabling them to live in the communities where they live across the state, to stay in place and to engage in this full-time program. So we're emphasizing place-conscious learning. Individuals in rural communities do not always have access to our brick-and-mortar institutions, so we're taking the learning to them. So the 7-day field experience on MSU's campus is one of the unique features of this program. It's something that we call inclusive community camp. This initiation provides hands-on experience with children in elementary and middle school of varying abilities, including children with special support needs. I just wanted to show you an example of the kind of technology that is and will continue to be an important part of rural teacher recruitment, preparation, and retention. It's a very simple, simple machine. It's called a swivel robot, and it has a tablet attached. It's voice activated, like some of your technology in this room today. It allows someone to be in a classroom, even if they're hundreds of miles away. They might be teaching, they might be supervising a student teacher, or they might be mentoring a new teacher. We use this technology to deliver the inclusive community camp curriculum during the summer of 2020. This map shows the 2020 teacher residency placements across the state. You can see that we're including many rural communities. We also have lots of room to expand. So for outcomes, the first cohort was secondary only. It was launched in May 2019. The first 8 graduates completed in spring 2020. The first elementary cohort began in January 2020. This was challenging timing. They start earlier because they have some more classes to take. In spring 2021, we had 9 secondary teacher candidates complete the program, and our first 11 elementary teacher candidates completed the program. Our current cohort includes 11 elementary teacher candidates and 10 secondary teacher candidates. We expect all 21 to complete the program in spring 2022. Our goal is between 20 and 40 students per year. So you can see we can accommodate double what we're currently enrolling right now. So we hope that many of you from rural districts can encourage your educational leaders to take advantage of this program. So the Master of Arts in Teaching has made possible several externally funded initiatives. We have a Center for Research on Rural Education that helps connect these initiatives while also ensuring that we are seeking continuous improvement, building on what we learn, and employing best practices based on research evidence. We want to make sure that all of our initiatives are aligning with and contributing to this continuum of preparing highly capable educators. So it starts with student recruitment, and early field experience. And in the undergraduate program, this is during the sophomore year. We need to know, do you really want to be a teacher? Could you go back just one? Thanks. We then go to the teacher practicum, which happens in the junior year of the program and the senior year, and it finishes the senior year with student teaching. New teachers are really most vulnerable to leaving the profession in those first years after they graduate and after they start teaching. So this is critical timing for really excellent mentoring and support. Okay. So all teacher candidates need to be prepared to lead their own classrooms. And what we're understanding more about in the context of rural education is they also need to be ready to be a contributor to that school. And they need to be ready to live in that community. So these are the experiences that we're needing to integrate into undergraduate teacher preparation. What does it mean to effectively teach in a rural community, but also live well and thrive in that rural community? So the launch of the Master of Arts in Teaching program allowed MSU and Montana partners to access the largest U.S. Department of Education grant in the history of our teacher education program. This grant-funded project allows us to recruit teachers to participate in the Master of Arts in Teaching and expands that program to address the specific challenges of preparing teachers for rural communities. The project was the answer to the question, how will we get Master of Arts in Teaching students in the places that need them the most? Nearly all schools in Montana are going to qualify for this program, excepting the largest, most urban school districts. So overall, our goal with this program is to strengthen rural education in Montana by placing qualified and motivated teachers in rural K-12 classrooms. This is what you would consider a grow your own initiative. So by recruiting candidates from those rural communities. So this external funding, which was $3.1 million, was matched 100% in funds and other resources by all of these critical partners in the states. This demonstrates really what you can do when you partner and when you collaborate with a common goal of providing high-quality teachers for every kid in Montana, regardless of where they live and how big their school is. So let me tell you some of the features of the Rural Teacher Project. The students are placed in rural schools during the Master of Arts in Teaching. They receive financial support during the program in the form of a living wage stipend. They commit to teaching in rural schools for 3 years after the completion of the program. If they can't fulfill that, they will have to pay back the stipend. New teacher mentoring and support are available during the first 2 years of teaching. This is that critical time period. There are ongoing opportunities for remote professional learning. And then there is also professional development for school leaders, how to recruit and retain teachers. So this map indicates that there are still some areas in the state that we need to target for recruitment efforts. In the first cohort, which was 2020-2021, we had 18 enrolled in this teacher project, 16 graduated, and 14 are now employed. The second cohort that's currently participating, we have 20 enrolled, and we expect 15 to complete the program in spring. So the mentoring of those 14 teachers, we're going to do mentoring for the first 2 years that they're teachers. I just wanted you to know that when we put out a call for mentor teachers, that over 100 teachers responded they wanted to help with this. This is really encouraging. We trained 20 of those teachers, and 14 were matched with those 14 individuals based on their grade level and their subject content expertise. So the lines represent those mentor-teacher partnerships. You can see that some of them are quite at a distance from one another, and this is where technology comes in really handy. So I want to talk about how we have duplicated that rural teacher model and expanded on it and what our next steps are going to be. So we have a shortage of teachers in particular content areas and in particular areas of the state. We also have a severe mental health workforce shortage in Montana. Many schools don't have school counselors. And in those cases, the role of counseling often falls onto the school administrator. This is sometimes because there isn't a whole job for a school counselor in that district or at that school. And this is a huge problem. Considering some of the findings that Superintendent Arntzen shared with us earlier, where we have a good portion of our youth saying that they are reporting being sad and hopeless, that was a record-breaking finding on that survey. And those aren't the kind of records we like to break. The Rural Mental Health Pathway Project is another Department of Education federally funded program. It's a $2.3 million project, and Montana was one of only 3 states to win this grant. This program is designed to prepare and support high-quality, school-based mental health counselors for Montana's rural schools and communities. So the individuals on this slide represent a collaboration across departments at MSU, Health and Human Development, and Education, and they represent a partnership across universities, so Montana State University and University of Montana. This is the kind of collaboration that's going to make this program successful, and we need to do a lot more of that to address the needs of rural communities. The program uses a research-based model, and we are working to understand why the gaps exist in this workforce, what the barriers are, testing ways to fill those gaps, identifying what we need to do differently, connecting organizations that haven't been communicating with one another previously, developing best practices for preparing professionals to provide rural mental health service. The project will build 5 cohorts of counselors in training, with students at MSU and U of M participating in their training together and building supportive networks for themselves. Both programs have added courses to their curricula that focus on rural counseling. It's a 2-year program. It's very hands-on. There's a rural orientation the first semester, that's step 2 on the model, or step 1. A rural practicum in the second semester, that's step 2, and a 10-month in-place internship in a rural community throughout the second year, that's step 3. In contrast, we're not doing internships in Bozeman and Missoula and then hoping graduates will go work in rural communities. They're being placed there for their practical clinical experience. Sustainability of this depends on step 4, which is being employed in a rural community, so rural professional practice. During the second year, or during the 2-year program, participants receive stipends at each of those program milestones. They receive lodging and travel support, counseling supplies, and then a post-degree financial award. Participants commit to serving in a rural or reservation community for a 1-year minimum post-graduation period. Priority for this program are going to be schools that are small, rural, and also low income. So here are some of our outcomes. Cohort 1, spring 2021, we had 10 enrolled, 9 completed, and 9 are now employed in rural places. Cohort 2, we currently have 10 enrolled, and cohort 3 we are recruiting for right now. Our goal is to prepare 10 new health professionals for rural communities each year of this project. So where do we go from here? How do we carry the rural teacher project even farther? The need for teachers and school counselors in Montana's rural communities is a very complex problem. It's compensation, it's housing, it's isolation, it's shrinking populations, lack of awareness, lack of experience, and sometimes limited access to higher education resources that could help address the problem. The next piece of the puzzle is another Center for Research on Rural Education project that recently received funding from individual donors and a foundation Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies. This project is called Aspire, Advancing Support, Preparation, and Innovation in Rural Education. So there are 3 parts of this project that provide a more holistic approach to this multifaceted problem. The first is Rural Teacher Pathways Project. This part of the project strengthens the undergraduate rural teacher preparation continuum. All those clinical experiences that I talked about on that continuum are going to be in the context of rural communities. That takes some time and resources, and it's why it needs to be a funded project. We can grow our own, but to meet the needs, we're also going to need to recruit students to teach in rural areas. Students sometimes say after an initial rural experience, I never thought a rural school was an option before, but I think it might be an option. It interested me, but I didn't know because I really haven't had any experience in a rural community. I could definitely see myself teaching in a rural school now. Or I think that going to Broadus or another one of our rural school partners really confirmed I totally want to do this someday. The second part is Mentor Montana. This is where we provide mentoring and training for teachers to become mentors of current teachers who are on Class 5 licenses. So Class 5 is a provisional license. It's something that you could have and then have a certain period of time to complete your endorsement or complete your teaching degree. But often people need support in order to do that. They need a mentor. So that's the purpose of the Mentor Montana part of the program. And then there's the Montana Teacher Licensure Clearinghouse. This is the centralized web-based portal to online teacher education programs and coursework information. This is going to streamline access to coursework needed to add those teaching endorsements or to seek initial licensure. None of the 10 EPPs in the state can supply all the needed online coursework alone. So this project is going to require collaboration among all those institutions and also assistance from OCHI to ensure that we can transfer credits and individuals can be recommended by one institution for licensure. I'm going to stop there and see if there are any questions before I go to Proficiency Best Education.
Hi, thank you so much. This is so exceptional. It's that you hit the ground running, you all have, and show already such great outcomes. It's really very inspiring. Lots of ideas just kind of are harder to implement, and this is really working. My question is, it seems to me that these programs and the programs that Dr. Mclean outlined, there is more emphasis on having the students in the classroom with more in-classroom teaching experience than with some of the is that just wishful thinking on my part, or is that actually you're getting the kids so they really know what they're getting into, which helps them stay there?
With the Master of Arts in Teaching, it is a one-year intensive experience. Students are taking coursework while they're also in school all day. So you're correct, they are getting more school time.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. It's quite exciting, actually. What are the qualifications to get into the MAP program, and what kind of candidate are you looking for?
So in order to be a secondary teacher, we're looking for a bachelor's degree in a teachable subject. So it could be biology, could be history. And then a passing score on the Praxis to get into the program. So we need to show that you have the content before we focus more exclusively on the pedagogy.
Thank you. This is fascinating and great. Thank you for your good work. The mental health, the P3 program, are those counselors being trained more for mental health than for administrative kind of, I mean, I'm imagining in rural areas they are able to spend more time than course developing course assignments for students and some of those types of things?
They're getting more counseling preparation, so mental health counseling preparation in addition to school counseling. It's kind of a combination of subject areas.
I have one more question, thank you. How does housing and salary play into this picture? Because that, I think, is something that we're looking at very significantly.
Thank you, and thank you for looking into the salary issue, because I feel like that is a huge barrier for beginning teachers. With these programs, since they're grow your own programs, we tend to be recruiting people who are already living in those communities, so housing doesn't end up being as much of an issue, which I think is part of what makes them more sustainable and why grow your own programs are more sustainable to begin with. But compensation is always going to be an issue, and so yeah, I thank you for whatever you can do to make those entry-level positions more attractive in Montana for our graduates.
Yeah, if I can jump right there, I was going to say, when we went around this table and we introduced each other and we talked about academic qualifications, you know, it's never lost in my mind that the educational opportunities that were afforded to us was thanks to the teachers that prepared us in order to accomplish great things later on in life. And so there's a profound sense of gratitude, but it should not stop just there in terms of gratitude. And I would like to add my voice very humbly in terms of some of the situations that our teachers, particularly our rural teachers, are confronting. And if I may share an anecdote, a few years ago, I was traveling in rural Montana, and I decided to stop at a donut shop. It was 6:30 in the morning. So I'm the only customer, and then the doorbell rings, and in comes another lady, and she watches me as I buy my donuts. I feel she's staring at me, and then she says, "Are you the president of Montana State University?" And I smile and I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "My daughter graduated from Montana State." And as I normally do when I hear about an alum, I said, "Go Cats, I'm so proud of her." And she said, "Yes, she's a teacher." And I said, "Well, I'm even prouder now that you say that." And I said, "Oh no, because you know, she doesn't make enough money, and still she needs to pay for her supplies. She works every day. She works on Saturdays and Sundays. And that is sad, right? And I know that the legislature have many pressures, and I know that the governor is trying to address many important issues. But I think that this goes to the core of who we want to be as a state. So if I can add my voice and to the superintendent and to our wonderful legislators, in my mind, teachers and nurses are absolutely essential for us to have a very healthy and happy state. So thank you.
Well, thank you, President Cruzado. I think that's a really, really important point. And there's a lot of headway that we can make, I think, in partnership together. Just looking at the time and knowing we have additional topics that we wanted to cover, Dr. Harmon, if you'd want to go on to proficiency-based education.
Thank you. So just starting with the basics with proficiency-based education, I think the best way to understand PBE is that it centers on demonstrations of specific and transparent learning outcomes in which learning is the constant and time is the variable. This would be in contrast to a more traditional approach where seat time is the constant and learning is the variable. This is also known as competency-based Mastery-based, performance-based, and standards-based education. All of those terms are used interchangeably. This approach could be used as part of personalized learning, but these are not the same thing. Personalized learning involves students setting learning goals based on personal, academic, and career interests. It customizes learning for each student's strengths, needs, and skills. So like I said, it could be part of personalized learning, but those are not the same thing. I'm going to talk about proficiency-based education. So some really important features of PBE include that learning targets must be rigorous. Students are empowered to make decisions about their learning and how they will demonstrate proficiency. Assessment is meaningful and ensures useful feedback for the student. Instruction is relevant, timely, and differentiated to serve individual learning needs. Progress of students is based on evidence, not participation, and not attendance. Learning is active. It uses varied pathways, modalities, and individual pacing. Equity for all students is an important component and must be embraced by the culture of the school and the education system. You might see more flexibility in time to graduation, credits required for graduation, and pathways to graduation. You would be less likely to have high school graduates who passed at the D level, which is arguably not proficient. I think proficiency-based education could align very well with Article 10, Section 1 of the Constitution of Montana. It's the goal of the people to establish a system of education which will develop the full educational potential of each person. Equality of educational opportunity is guaranteed to each person of the state. We just need to be careful about predetermining what that educational potential is. And we don't want to develop the full educational potential of some and leave others behind. Let's just reflect a little bit on some of the downsides of proficiency-based education. The outcomes of PBE are very dependent on program teaching quality. Programs may be too dependent on technology-assisted individual learning versus encouraging learning about how to navigate peer relationships, understanding the cooperation, collaboration, and negotiation that accompanies group project work. Having positive in-person relationships with educators and mentors. We can't leave those things out of a proficiency-based education system. So several months ago, MSU received a legislative appropriation. Thank you very much for your confidence in the leadership of our educator preparation program. We're going to develop and pilot this approach with our school partners. Success of this initiative will depend upon our ability to cultivate faculty and teacher expertise in this area, to add modules to our teacher education program, to work with schools who are already using proficiency-based learning approaches, to enhance our field experiences, and to work with families so that they better understand standards-based grading and how it differs from the more traditional approach. So to summarize our initial plans, we have a summer institute for teachers who are currently engaged in PBE in the Bozeman School District. We're going to create modules to be integrated into current pre-service teacher coursework. We're going to develop a family engagement program focusing on demystifying the standards-based grading. And then we're going to enhance our teacher education field experiences to allow clinical practice with PBE principles. So allow me to acknowledge the many people who've been working on these initiatives at MSU and beyond. And I would love to answer any other questions that you have about that initiative.
Are there any questions for Dr. Harmon? Excellent. I agree with Superintendent Arntzen with a thumbs up. Thank you, Dr. Harmon, for the presentations. I think between Dr. Mclean and Dr. Harmon, you could see multiple pieces of the puzzle beginning to fit together to address the needs of our rural communities, the opportunities to grow our own teachers. So we thank you for your leadership and Dr. Mclean's leadership and taking these ideas that come from the legislature and putting them into action to really solve Montana problems. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think we'll transition. We have about 30 minutes left, and we'll transition to an area I know that's very important to everyone in this room and everyone at this table, and that is the success of our resident students in higher education. So I'd like to invite up to the podium Dr. Scott Lemon, who is going to be talking about our central app and Apply Montana portal. Director Lemon.
The first test is figuring out the microphone. So Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for having me here today. Would like to extend a special thanks to President Bodner and the reception here at the University of Montana. A lot of work goes into putting this together, so thank you very much for all the hard work from yourself and your staff having us here today. My name is Scott Lemon. I am the Director of Admissions and Enrollment Strategy here with the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Education. We've got some great information today to talk through resident student access, some of the key priorities for my role here at OCHI, certainly for the Board of Regents, the Commissioner, and everyone here involved, and all this great work we're here to talk about today. Two main components of that are very large initiatives that we're working on through Apply Montana. That is the central application here for the Montana University system. If you remember nothing else from my presentation today, please take with you that any student in the state of Montana can apply to college here under the MUS, all 16 campuses, for free all year long. It is 100% free for Montana residents to apply to college. They can apply to all of our campuses absolutely for free. We're also working on a career and college readiness portal that is going to be a one-stop shop. I'll go into some details about that. How do we merge a lot of the great information, initiatives, and effort that are going on in the Commissioner's office across the state with our campus partners, one of which, we're here right now. It's an amazing opportunity for us to continue to do this outreach and get this great information. We're going to talk about the portal, a standalone resource for Montanans to get information and engage, frankly, with the Montana University system and the work that we're doing. I'd be remiss if I didn't let everyone know at the table, this is not my work alone. I'm simply here presenting it. This is a vision that has been thought through careful planning, strategic prioritization. Our Commissioner Christian, the Board of Regents have prioritized resident student access and put this at the forefront of everything we're trying to accomplish as one team, moving in one direction here in the state of Montana. So certainly I'm here presenting today, but it is a team effort long before my time to include the work that Deputy Commissioner Trevor and Tessman have put into this. John Thunstrom, Director of Information Technology. There's a lot of folks behind the scenes that put a ton of work into this. And last but not least, our campuses. The ask for the work that we have engaged with our campuses in coming on board with these initiatives to work together and find opportunities for us to do what is most important for, I think, everyone in this room, and that is support some of these folks that are sitting behind me. That's our current students and future prospective students here in the state of Montana, providing the resources we can and opening what we like to consider a front door as wide as we can. How do we get this front door into public higher education in our state open as wide as humanly possible? So we'll talk about these two initiatives today, the increased transparency, we believe, to the value of post-secondary education. We'll talk a little bit about retention. You've heard from one of my colleagues, Christine Miller, on Montana 10, some of the great opportunities for us to work with these students in multiple years, focus on retention. We'll talk about the role that recruitment and outreach plays in that. How do we engage new audiences in our state? So it's not just students. We love our students very much. It's also parents. It's educators. It's counselors in our state. How do we provide information to them in a unique way that we can speak languages to different populations that are also contributing to that mission of getting more students engaged in post-secondary education? And lastly, provide a unified resource for Montana residents, right? We've got a lot of great information that floats all around different locations on different websites, through different campuses and organizations through our state. How do we do a better job of finding that main point of entry for students to get similar information in one great place here for the state of Montana. So this is and it's an honor to be here. It's been an honor to work on these projects. One of the things that they guaranteed me when I took this role was I would not be bored. And Commissioner Christian and the senior leadership team here at the Board of Regents did not lead me astray. It is incredibly impactful and engaging work. So I thank you for allowing me the chance to work on this and report out on it. Here's what we launched. We've got a standalone campaign and brand for Apply Montana, and that encompasses, as I mentioned, the central application itself. It encompasses what will be the brand new resident student college and career readiness portal that we're getting ready to launch here in a few weeks. But we were mindful with this in mind to get a standalone program office to look at a new way to communicate Apply Montana overall across the state, and we're really fortunate to have the help that we did in developing this. I hope you've seen this. That means we're doing an okay job across the state in getting the word out to all Montanans and stakeholders about Apply Montana here in the work that we're engaged in. As I said, we've broken it down into two major components for now. The largest projects we have, the central application, as I mentioned. I'll mention it again. It's free for all Montana residents to apply to college to all 16 campuses. One application will do just that. There's a statewide impact there. We'll talk about the growth in applications to our state, why that's important for students to be more interested in the application process, how we can streamline that. We can remove these barriers, cost of which is a large one, right? So believe it or not, the cost to apply to college for students, the national average is $44 for an application to college. If you multiply that by the amount of schools you're interested in, and you look at it from a national perspective, it sure adds up pretty quick. If you come from a low-income household and you've got some significant challenges where you live and your family, there's very tough decisions to be made, believe it or not, about applying to college or some other priorities that may be occurring in your household. So we're thrilled to offer that as a resource for Montana. And as I mentioned, a single point of entry and to serve multiple audiences in the state. I do want to point out the work we're doing with our guidance counselors and the great feedback we've had too. It's been an honor to get to know a lot of our guidance counselors in these school districts across the state, how overworked a lot of them are, all right? There's a lot of roles that these guidance counselors play in our high school students' lives. I've got a chance to learn from them and also get more feedback and information directly from our school districts on how we can be doing a better job in serving them at the forefront of the college journey for a lot of their students overall. Some of the main objectives, I've touched base on a couple of these, but we really want to focus on the communication to the value of post-secondary education to the roughly 40% of Montana high school graduates who will elect to not engage post-secondary education, who will elect to not pursue a credential after high school graduation. That's a large number. We want to make sure that we're communicating the value effectively to students and really find opportunities for them to raise their hand and get information should they choose about engaging in the Montana University system to some capacity, providing resources for them to really have a zero-risk opportunity to learn if college is for them and if they'd like to pursue a credential with the Montana University system in this process. As I said, additional support for students, parents, and educators. We know quite a fair amount about our educators in the K-12, the great work with Superintendent Arnson and the partnerships we have with her office. But the parents have been actually an interesting opportunity for us to learn from as well. You know, you're looking at a variety of different scenarios across a great state like Montana, and every single household has a unique set of circumstances with how does their parents view post-secondary education? How does their community view post-secondary education in our state? Are we doing the best job we possibly can to provide these opportunities and communicate to them overall back to that value again? And then extend campus-level service to everyone in Montana through a central office sort of approach, and it's been truly an honor to work with our campuses and find what's unique to different regions in the state. We've got 16 campuses. All of them have a similar mission, but in a very unique and different way that they go about communicating with their community, finding opportunities to do this. Our phone rings at Ochi, find opportunities to engage with the teachers, the parents, the high school counselors, and provide a system-level approach to the offerings that we have here in the MUS. So it's a great opportunity for us to work more and deeper with our campuses, but also to, I like to use the term amplify the efforts that we're seeing on our campuses through Apply Montana and the overall MUS. So just a tremendous opportunity there. So how do they know about it? That's probably the most important question here. How do you know about Apply Montana? What are we doing to communicate to folks that we have this great new offering, and it's something that we want to continue to build off of? We launched a digital awareness campaign last year, and we found an opportunity to target roughly 27,000 households in the state of Montana. We wanted to show them that there's this application that we've developed in partnership with, as I said, a lot of great people here in the state and working on this. But we launched a digital campaign and had some great success. We're limited in the amount of these that we can do, but we wanted to make a concerted effort to get the word out about Apply Montana and the fact that the application is free, and that port of entry, as I mentioned, that larger front door is opening wider and wider for students to do that. We also focused on talking to guidance counselors in the state, not just the students themselves, but wanted folks to know that there is some help that's here, and we'll continue to get better with that communication of the value of post-secondary education as well. So this campaign was great. We'd like to do a lot more of these for students to actually get information directly from their computer or their phone, and proceed on to getting even more information, perhaps applying if they're interested in doing that. So we're going to continue to pursue these sort of opportunities. Some general milestones, just to give everyone, again, this is not something that it just happened yesterday. There's a lot of really hardworking folks in this room that have put a ton of time into this, from the Board of Regents, different legislators having some great conversations about what we can be doing better. Overall, to getting to where the application was launched, I think it took around 2 years for us to stand the application up in its first cycle, and that was September 26th. Of 2020. I will never forget it because I was not too far along in my new role here in the Commissioner's office. And if we talk about, as we have yesterday, I think Regent Nystuen mentioned what keeps you up at night. And that's what kept me up tonight, sir. That was, does the application work? Is it running properly? Are we doing everything the way that we said we were going to do? And the answer is yes. We had a great launch. We've had very little hiccups in that process in the first application cycle. And it turns over pretty quickly. So once we have an application in place for students to apply, we receive those. Our campuses do an amazing job in working with the applications of the students. But we're immediately on to the next cycle. How can we make it better? Are there questions on the application that we can eliminate or reword to speed up the process for students to apply? And so we're already launched our second cycle in July 21. And as I said, we're working on the portal that is getting ready to launch here in a few weeks. Regent Nystuen, that will be the next thing that keeps me up at night, will be the portal launch. I will save you the surprise for the next meeting overall. So we're excited with this trajectory, and it will continue to get better. One of the things that is near and dear to my heart, and something that I know we spend a great deal talking about in our office, and we get some great direction from the board and the commissioner on what it is we're trying to do, and how do we measure success with the central application through Apply Montana here. And a big part of that is application growth. We spend a lot of time, as we should, talking about retention. We talk about those run rates with students as they get into an institution, how impactful that is. We also know that we stand a 0% chance to retain a student that we don't actually get to enroll in one of our campuses. So we've got to do an impactful job in getting the word out, making the application easier. And we're encouraged by the numbers in the first year that we've had. Overall, system-wide, there's been a 39% increase in total applications. We've seen the in-state application rate jump in the state of Montana, 29%. And we see some really positive trends with the matriculation rates through Apply Montana, that is, students applying actually ending up on a campus through the MUS 1 point, which is incredibly encouraging. And it goes back to what you heard yesterday, and that's Deputy Commissioner Trevor talk about the largest incoming class in the Montana University system since 2011. And so there's a lot of really hardworking people across the system handling those really large problems with enrollment, and we're seeing that starting to come up, and we couldn't be more honored and proud to have a small role in assisting that incoming class overall. It starts with applications, and I talk about this quite a bit. The reason is, if you look at where we actually impact, I would say the support function for the overall admissions process and the recruitment cycles for the Montana University system, and as I said, amplify the efforts of what the great work our campuses are doing. It's in the admissions funnel, and you can see some of the larger areas here where a lot of the resources and time are dedicated. That's in the outreach and recruitment. It takes a lot of time and resources to go out and meet as many students as possible, communicate effectively to them and their families, get them interested enough to where they want more information about coming to a Montana University System campus. The application is next, so if students have a certain amount of information from these outreach efforts, they're interested enough and they have as much information as they might need to apply. Most students don't already know they want to go to college. Sure, there's plenty out there that know, I'm going to college next year. I've got a tremendous amount of support and resources to do this, to engage in the college search. overall. A lot of students in our state do not have that level of resource to get the information or the support at home to complete the application itself. So you see that largest piece of the pie in the funnel in the outreach and recruitment. Our campuses invest a ton of time and energy and capital into making sure that we're everywhere we can be in getting students' questions answered to the recruitment and outreach component. So we like to think that we help through Apply Montana in that way. And then the applications, as I mentioned, we've got to get the applications in for students to be interested enough in joining one of our campuses to submit an application. And that's really where it starts for our campuses to engage with students about what program might you be interested in, what can we do to answer any more questions you might have to select a campus in the MUS. And then we go through the admissions process. As many of you have, children, grandchildren of your own that have gone through this, it's a fun time to get your offers of admission from our campuses. And so that single application that somebody will complete through Apply Montana actually goes to every campus in the MUS that they have selected, and they're engaged in a unique recruitment and admissions process with our campuses individually. There's a personalized approach with our campuses and the outreach through the admissions process as well. And then it's the really big time. I would love to bring our students up here. I don't have time for that, but just to get their take on what led them to make their selection to the campus that they've selected. Thank you. I don't want to smash the bug. I did catch one in midair. Is it okay to release, or is there a napkin? Just go ahead? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Slow motion. Came in slow motion. Apologize for that. That will be what I'm remembered for if I'm here, yes. Thank you. I will try, Commissioner. So the enrolled piece, so students have their multiple offers of admission and they're able to make a selection to a campus they want to do. And that's really where we get to retention. I really want the committee to see the funnel process and just think about through that retention process and this great work and all the time and effort that goes into keeping these students, these great students that we have in the MUS. Once they're here, it takes a ton of time and resources to get them to campus, to get them to enroll in MUS. It doesn't just start on the first day of school. They've likely been in this process for a year or two in trying to make these decisions overall. So it's a great way to look at the larger picture here in the admissions funnel. I'll be brief. I know we're on a schedule here. I'll try to get through the portal portion as well, but this is going to be the one-stop shop, as I mentioned, that central hub, if you will, for students to engage. We've built a website, and we're incredibly excited with this. We've had a great partner in iFactory, a national firm, to help us think through. Turns out I'm not a web designer by trade, and so we've had some tremendous opportunities to work with some specialists and experts that are. And this is really the X-ray. This is what they call a wireframe. These are multiple options that we've gone through different paths for that user experience and how we want to present the options that we were able to do in building this out overall. And so this is really the X-ray of the website options that we had. I wanted to show the committee just how thoughtful I think and in-depth this process was right through the design process. We didn't take this lightly. We didn't just roll out of bed and say, gosh, we think we have the website figured out. We did focus groups across the state. We solicited feedback from senior leadership teams, students, parents about how can we capture Montana and echo a lot of what we're talking about here today and throughout this meeting. And so we took all this information, and this is going to be the first, I guess, snippet of the homepage overall. And you can see we've got the application, the ability to apply now right in your upper right. There's a menu option. We've taken a ton of information from mus.edu, and we're going to migrate that over. One important point for this as well is it's stackable. This is not a set-in-stone process. We're going to continue to get better. We know there's a lot of resources that we want to bring into this. The career opportunities for students in the state of Montana. How do we merge more DLI data into outcomes if you engage in a post-secondary credential with the MUS overall? There's going to be no shortage of more brainstorming, more opportunities to make this website better for students. But we are going to focus on multiple communities. We're going to focus on multiple personas. We're going to communicate directly to parents and guidance counselors and teachers and have opportunities to do that a little bit more effectively through this process as well. The best part, as I said, is that this is something that we can continue to build out, and it is not going to be set in stone. We'll continue to do that. One of the most exciting, at least most well-received, I would say, functions of the new site itself has been the ability for students that are going to have the opportunity to search different career tracks tied to MUS programs through the website that we're building here in Apply Montana. And that's exciting, right? Because a lot of students need information about what programs exist that will get them to a career track or trajectory that they're interested in, based on what your starting salary might be, based on what study times are you looking at from an on-campus perspective, what might that growth rate be in the career field you're interested in. Oh, by the way, you might have some amazing opportunities to study different career tracks that your parents aren't familiar with. And you'll have a resource here to go show them, if you're interested in pursuing a career track that they're not familiar with, what you might start out making, where you might want to live, and some programs to consider at our MUS campuses. We're trying to paint that picture for students to see themselves in a track that they're interested in, and give them reliable data to make those informed decisions. Also pretty cool, we're going to put up some bio information as we build this part of the site out, where we'll be talking to students across campus and work with our campus partners to get some students that are in these tracks that we're highlighting and showcasing for them to pursue and engage even more in this process. And so this will launch hopefully at the end of next month. We're trying our best to get this up and running before the end of the year, so that students will have version 1 of the Apply Montana portal, and we'll begin engaging in that overall. I also just want to remind the committee that, again, the hard work that is going on in our campuses, the asks that our office has had for them to engage and support us, I can't say enough just at how great it's been to work with all of our campuses and them coming on board in this single unified approach to trying to impact that 40% that elect to not engage post-secondary education in our state, and the hard work of our commissioner and our board and senior leadership teams to continue to let us drive these initiatives forward. So it's incredibly exciting. I look forward to providing more updates as the board would have it. Quick couple highlights. Just the Apply Montana piece, we talk about the cost savings, the barriers for students here in our state. And to date, we've saved Montanans over $500,000 in waived application fees alone. So the commitment by the commissioner and our board of regents and a lot of the folks in this room today is really tangible savings and results for our communities, for our residents, for our families in the state. And so far that number is over $500,000. The campuses have also participated in this effort as well. And so we're just thrilled to see students in Montana be able to apply to college for free and get those application fees waived. We currently support high school counselors and families. As I said, we'll get that platform up hopefully by the end of the month in the website to have those 16 MUS campuses for counselors. The one point I wanted to make about that note is that if you think about being a high school guidance counselor, perhaps you only have a certain amount of time to meet with your students. We've heard from folks all across the system and the impact and value of advising here when you get to college. Think about it in a high school setting, the limited amount of time that these folks have to engage with students one-on-one. We've created a process that they only need to remember one time. You can submit one application, you can do one process, and that student can submit to every campus that they'd like. We're not asking counselors anymore to go directly to any one campus's website. Hey, you've only got time for one campus. What's your school? What do you want it to be? They're able to complete a single application, remember that process for their students, and walk them through that. So that's an important note I wanted to make as well. And then that single point of entry, as we've talked about a little bit here today, we talk about students that raise their hand in the classroom, and we think the same way in higher education. You know, what are some opportunities for us to remove these barriers and provide more opportunities for access, resident student access in our state? And that's allowing a student a risk-free opportunity to ask more questions, to get more information, to raise their hand about coming into post-secondary educational opportunities in the state of Montana. So we're really, really, truly blessed to have the opportunity to work on some of these great initiatives. And Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, that concludes my remarks.
Wonderful. Yeah, very impressive. Thank you, Dr. Lemon.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, it is not Dr. Lemon just yet, so I want to, I appreciate that. I wish it was. I wish that was all finished, but I've got a little bit of work yet to do.
Director Lemon, thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a huge focus in the legislature on career technical ed. An anecdote that I have from my own community is I had my windshield repaired, and I know the gentleman that owns the shop quite well. And I asked him, well, where is your student? And he has a wonderful student going to college. No, I'm not going to college. I'm going to get a certificate for 6, where he only has to go to school for about 6 months. How are you going to bridge that? Because a lot of our students have a traditional thinking process about college and the money that it takes to go 4 years and so forth. I think we in the legislature have a tremendous concern about that. How are you going to bridge that?
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, please.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, Representative, I guess I would just say that has been sort of the front burner of this project since the get-go. This project came out of shared policy goals. We spent a lot of time in Section E with Senator Solomon and his crew, and sometimes people wonder what we do up there. But the shared policy goals, front and center of this from the get-go has been that we would promote 2-year education, lockstep with 4-year education and beyond, and that goes from certificates to postgraduate. That is the focus, and it will be the focus. And as this portal comes online, you will be able to make choices. Scott showed you some of those entry screens. You'll be able to. It will ask you questions. What is your interest in work? And do you want to work inside? Do you want to work outside? Those type of deals, and it will help steer students toward paths that best suit their aptitude and their desires, and then give you, as you saw in those last couple slides, some opportunities for what is available in the fields that suit you, and help steer students toward then institutions within our system where they can find those educational goals. And so great question, but that is front and center of what we've tried to do with this project really from the get-go. Scott, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, that's perfect, Commissioner. Thank you.
Excellent. Is there any additional questions? Yes, Regent Sexton.
Thank you, Chair Lozar. I don't have a question, but I have a follow-up comment to yours. We actually had a conversation about that at the breakfast this morning of how do we transform the idea of education both in the state and outside of the state. I think you're absolutely right. When people think of college, they think of a 4-year degree, and that isn't for everyone. It's not. Everyone's different. And so I think the stackable credentials that are being proposed are a wonderful way to start that. It gets people in the door of education, and they might get a certificate and stop there, but they also can see the potential to move on. And it's transforming the way I've looked at education. I'm a non-traditional student, but I see it happening at the university level and in all of our institutions. So I think it's a wonderful point to make, though, and I think it is working, and stuff like this is working. So thanks.
Thank you. And thank you, Director Lemon. Appreciate it. I know we just have a few minutes left, and Tyler Trevor can do anything in 2 minutes, so we'll bring Deputy Commissioner Trevor to just do a really brief report on Resident Student Financial Aid Program.
Somehow you have to up the mid-fly catch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Commissioner, and Madam Chair, and members of the committee, the Education Committee. It's a privilege to be back in front of you. I'm going to be brief, as I've been directed, but I can't go without mentioning SB 60 from the 2019 legislative session, and Senator Solomon and the efforts of the legislature to revitalize the STEM scholarship. That's one of the things that bill did. The other thing it did is it established a framework for financial aid in the state of Montana, a framework that's a partnership between the Montana University System and the state of Montana that runs as a continuum. On one side, merit-based aid to try to keep the best and brightest students in state. To the other end, the need-based aid to ensure access to all students in the state of Montana. And in the middle, a targeted incentive-based type of aid called the STEM scholarship that would incentivize students to not only enter into STEM degrees, but incentivize them to make progress at a pace that would get them to graduate in 4 years. And so this is an outstanding framework for a state, and I'm privileged to talk about it. We could spend hours looking at the data related to this, and obviously I've only got probably a minute left now, so we're not going to. But the report, the bill also required us to bring this report. That's why I'm here. And the report wanted information on each one of these 3 sections. How many students are enrolled? How much money are we putting into it? What is the success of the students? In other words, what percent comes back after 1 year? What are the graduation rates? And finally, what percent make it into the workforce? This report has built that out for the MUS Honors Scholarship, which is our merit-based side of that. That's a waiver given by campuses, so this is funded by the Montana University system. And I have all that line of data up here in this kind of do-it-yourself report. I would encourage everybody to look through this. It'll take you through the retention, the graduation rates, into the workforce. And then we have information on the STEM scholarship. It's only been around for 2 years now, so we don't have that full set of data. But you can take a look at how many students are taking advantage of this scholarship. And in particular interest here is what's the total number that entered in fall 2020 is 447, and 404 this past fall. Those are drivers that dictate the amount of money that funds the scholarship. By the way, I have to mention the fact that the revitalization of the STEM scholarship made it the first dollar out of the lotto funds, which secured it as a statutory appropriation that'll range about $2.5 million going forward. So we thank you for that. And finally, we have the Access Scholarship, which was the need-based end of our continuum. That was funded in the 2019 legislative session. It wasn't funded again in the 2021. That was a match. The legislature put up $2 million. Our foundations put up $2 million. Very successful program. About 2,000 students per semester received $500. To help them with access to the university system. Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to talk about these topics, and Madam Chair, at another one of your meetings, if so, that individuals have questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Trevor. Are there any questions? I know yes, Regent Buchanan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair, this is just so exciting. Having mentioned serving in this role about a decade ago, it is so clear that this partnership is as strong as I've experienced it. And to Commissioner Christian's comments, it's about identifying shared policy goals, right? And we've seen success in CTE, in the teacher shortage effort. Just want to tease a policy goal that we're working on and want to get you excited about. As we look at the goals, we've had a heightened focus on enrollment. We're starting to really identify that completion is as equally important. And you heard Director Lemon mention Montana 10. It's a project that's yielding some really exciting data that is identifying that time to degree and potentially decreasing that. And I think we all have that interest, that if we can save the students' dollars, save the state dollars, and deliver more credentials, it would be good for the gaggle. So I just compliment and thank you all. Really, really impressed and excited about this partnership, and we thank you for making the time to be here today and excited to tackle the next projects that we're going to get. Thanks, Chairman Lozar.
Thank you, Regent Buchanan. I'm glad you mentioned Montana 10, certainly something that we want to be able to present to this committee and the legislature as we move forward. Yes, Senator Templer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. My committee's heard my story before, but my schools, a number in my district, not one of them started school without a teacher shortage this year. And I appreciate what's going forward now. I'm really encouraged. A couple, 3-4 sessions ago, we weren't heading that way, and I think we are now. So thank you, folks, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Senator. Well, I know we all have an agenda to keep. I know you guys are going off to another set of meetings, and we do as well. So thank you for joining the Montana Board of Regents and engaging in really important discussions about the future of education in Montana. I would be remiss if I didn't mention certainly the good work of the commissioner and his obviously multi-talented staff. And the really good partnership with EDIC. I know Pat McCracken has been just an incredible partner to OCHI and to OPI, and Jamison Walker, the staff attorney for this committee, has also been a really good partner, and we really look forward to having our staffs continue to work in partnership throughout the interim, as we as policymakers really work hard to make this the best place to live and to be educated. So thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, well, welcome back. It was a wonderful conversation, great presentations with the Education Interim Committee. We're going to move on to the latter part of our meeting today. Next up on our agenda is public comment. So since this is a public meeting, I will call for public comment on any matter not on the agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the Board of Regents, and would remind folks in the audience and folks watching online that written public comment can be submitted to Jasmine Casanovas at jcasanovas@montana.edu. In order to allow us, everyone, to have an opportunity to provide comment, we ask that you keep your comments limited to about 3 minutes. So with that, we'll ask for public comment, and as you come up to the podium, please state your first name and last name. Is there any public comment?
I'm so glad I get to speak without this. That was going to be hard. My name is Suzanne Oler. I'm
Welcome.
a parent of an MSU student. My great-grandfather, Duncan McKay, he settled on the short grass prairie of southeastern Montana in 1883. He had a hard life, and he stuck it out. He had a band of sheep. He eventually moved that to cattle and was a rancher. My grandfather took over that operation, ran it until 1987 when everything crashed. And my dad spent summers totally saddle sore, herding cattle, doctoring cattle, and shipping them. I grew up going to McKay Ranch in Ismay as a kid, absolutely loving it and feeling completely at home. I've always felt like Montana was my home. I just hadn't actually lived here yet. And since I've brought my husband, my children out nearly every year to be able to spend time at our family ranch, which still exists today, and we've all felt the love of Montana, and we've always wanted to be here. It took us a little while, though, but we finally did it. In the last year, my husband and I decided to finally move to Montana and live the life we had wanted to live for a long time. The reason I'm here today is because I'm asking the Regents to consider my appeal for in-state residency for my son, Ian Oler. He's student number 1, I believe, in the appeals that you're reviewing today. And I'm asking that you make a motion to reconsider our application for residency based on the fact that my husband and I are full-time residents of Montana officially, and it is through no fault of Ian's that his parents decided to move to the same state and the same town in which he thought he might go to college. And I can tell you that when we told Ian that last year that we decided to move to Bozeman, he was less than thrilled, because MSU was one of the top schools he was considering going to for college, and the last thing he wanted was his parents living around the corner from his college experience. So I can tell you that our decision to move to Montana had absolutely nothing to do with Ian's decision to attend, and in spite of our decision to move to Montana after an MSU Saturday, Ian was convinced it was the right school for him. So he decided to go to MSU in spite of our residency in Montana. And so I'm hoping that you can consider this appeal, not asking for anything unreasonable or unfair. We are residents of Montana. We live, we work in Montana. We purchased our home in August last year. Took a little while for it to be completed. We got the keys in February. We've taken the steps as the parents of Ian Oler to become Montana residents. We have our driver's license, despite the fact that MVD was totally backed up from COVID delays. We got them, took a little time. We had a car registered in February this year. We registered the rest of our cars. We voted in the local election just a few weeks ago, and we consider ourselves to be Montanan through and through. I feel like it's in my blood. I've always felt like I should be here, and that's why I'm appealing to you that you would consider making Ian an in-state resident for tuition this year. One thing I want to leave you with is that we came from the bad state. I'm not going to say it out loud. We're very happy not to be there anymore. But when Ian originally applied to MSU, we had an address in that other state. That was our permanent address. We've severed all ties. We sold our property. We moved here. If we had still had that address in the other state, Ian would have had a tuition of $15,000 as a WUI student. Because of the situation, because our residency application has been rejected so far, and depending on your decision, we would be faced with paying $25,000 this year in tuition as residents of Montana. $10,000 difference. So we would have to pay $10,000 more if we weren't considered residents, even though we no longer have an address in another state. So I ask that you consider this reasonably and understand we're not trying to take advantage of a situation. We are just trying to, we're just residents of Montana, and our son happens to go to school here, and we just think it's fair that you consider that. So thank you for your time, and I hope you'll decide favorably for us.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for your public comment. Is there any additional public comment? Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Lozar, Commissioner Christians, Regents. My name is Anna Fox, and I'm a student senator representing the University of Montana Western. I am here to address the possibility of a COVID-19 immunization mandate, and I'm hoping for a statement from you, the board. This is a matter that the Associated Students of the University of Montana Western and the Associated Students of the University of Montana have responded to in surveys at numbers far greater than that of almost any other matter asking for student response. I find that the amount of interest and involvement from the students on this issue to be a spectacular display of their initiative and drive to make their voices heard on an issue that carries such a great impact on them. I ask that you, the board, validate these efforts by allowing us some insight on the possibility of implementing such a mandate. Having some insight into your stance will allow the constituents in which you serve peace of mind or grounds to work towards executing their right for fighting for their personal beliefs. This pandemic puts leadership in a hot seat, as I am sure you're aware of, and while a statement towards either side is not representative of a final decision, it is in which the students' best interest that you allow us an understanding to which side of this coin you lean towards. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anna. Any additional public comment? Good morning.
Good morning. Oh, it's a little shorter than I am. Hello and thank you, Chair Lozar, Commissioner Christians, Regents, and members of the board. My name is Garrett Yeager, and I am here representing the Associated Students of the University of Montana Western. We present to you a resolution motivated by a recent survey asking UMW students for their thoughts on a COVID-19 vaccination mandate. Of respondents, we found that 80% are against a vaccination mandate. Due to these results, our senators took action to represent the UMW student voice and put together this resolution against a mandate of the COVID-19 vaccination on our campus. We, the Associated Students of UMW, come forward today to inform you of this resolution as representation of the stance of our students. Yesterday, the Associated Students of the University of Montana came forward with a statement of their own in favor of a mandate. Respectfully, however, the magnitude of a vaccination mandate is not something that can be summed into a one-size-fits-all solution across the Montana University system. Each MUS campus is emblematic of a unique population, culture, and values that must be considered and respected. The Montana University system provides a valuable framework for cohesion. However, this ought not come at the detriment of representing our respective student bodies. The conclusion of this resolution states, therefore, be it resolved, the Associated Students of the University of Montana Western, represented in a student-wide survey, are against the idea of implementing a COVID-19 vaccination mandate. The entirety of this resolution will be emailed to the public comment area, as well as an attachment of the survey. I hope that you thoughtfully consider this resolution, as it is representative of great energy and effort by UMW students. I am proud to be the voice of that spirit and initiative in bringing this to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. Any additional public comment?
Thank you all. Chair Lozar, Commissioner Christians, Regents, my name is Jacob Kunze. I am the president of the Associated Students of the University of Montana Western, and I'm also the president of Montana Associated Students. I'm coming forward to inform you that at Wednesday's Montana Associated Students meeting, we passed a much-needed resolution presented by the Associated Students of the University of Montana. This resolution is to urge the board to pursue and prioritize any initiatives that diversify and lower the cost of education through the use of open education resources and materials, including zero textbook costs. It is our hope that through the use of open educational resources that we may help lower the cost of the financial effects that our courses have on our students. On average, students spend around $1,200 on textbooks and materials. In 2019, a U.S. public interest research group held a survey that found 63% of students in the United States do not purchase their textbooks because of the financial impacts, while 90% of students stated that they feel as though an inability to obtain these materials would be detrimental to their grades. This is an issue that needs to be resolved based on the Montana University System Strategic Plan that lists as Goal 1, access and affordability. Since MAS advocates for all students, including those of low income, it is of the utmost importance that we consider this resolution and take action to resolve this issue, as it will be a great impact on bettering affordability and student education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jacob. Any additional public comment? Additional public comment? Yes, welcome. Good morning, Dr. Yarlett.
Good morning. David Yarlett, president of Little Bighorn College. I hadn't planned on being here. Didn't plan on making any comments, but I thought I can't pass up an opportunity to say hi. And also, moving forward, continue to consider working with tribal colleges as far as partnerships. We've developed a great partnership with the Montana State University Northern regarding vocational programs. We've got a great partnership with Montana State University in Bozeman as far as research. You know, moving forward, I think our ultimate goal is providing education and training for our young people. And together we can make that happen. And as you move forward, as you make plans, I just ask that you remember and consider tribal colleges in the state of Montana. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yarlett. Is there any additional public comment? Any additional public comment? Seeing no additional public comment, just another reminder that you can still submit your written comment to jcasanovas@montana.edu. Thank you to all those that provided public comment yesterday as well as today. It's really important to this board, to this body. We are going to transition to taking some action. Certainly, we've had a couple days of great conversations covering lots of different agenda items, and now's our opportunity to take action. So we will start with the Budget, Admin, and Audit Committee. And I do want to ask a point of clarification on the consent agenda. I know we did pull that item. Do we want to keep that item pulled down into the action? Run it through? Are we comfortable with that? Okay. Wonderful. So I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda for Budget, Admin, and Audit Committee. Moved by Regent Buchanan. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any discussion, or is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving to the action agenda, we've got quite a few to work through here. I'll entertain a motion for action item A. Moved by Regent Sexton. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in favor, any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve action item B.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Regent Rogers. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Yes, Regent Dombrowski.
I believe action item B is the student fee conversation, and I would suggest that we would pull that from this meeting and remand it back to the Budget Committee for further work.
Thank you, Regent Dombrowski. I suppose we would need an amendment since we have a
Motion.
motion. We don't have to. Yeah, so this is the opportunity for the board to discuss. I know we had some feedback from students, particularly in public comment last night. I'm glad you brought this up, Regent Dombrowski. There still was some questions in regards to the student-driven fees. Happy to have that discussion now and consider maybe pulling it from the agenda as you mentioned. Yeah, Regent Nystuen.
Chair Lozar, I'd be agreeable to having this pulled. One of the things I forgot to mention or ask yesterday is what kind of accountability is there with regards to making sure that the dollars that are appropriated for, are garnered for student fees are actually spent for that. And again, this isn't to suggest that there's any improprieties or anything like that, but we all live in a world of transparency and accountability, and I want to make sure that when the students vote on a fee, it gets used for that, and somehow excess funds don't get used for other purposes because there's some surplus dollars in a particular account. I don't know if that's something that the Commissioner's office or the campuses keep an eye on or are accounted for, but we take very seriously, at least from my vantage point, very seriously, the request of the students. I can't remember the last time we voted one down, but it comes, I guess, from my perspective with good faith that the dollars are used appropriately and it can stand the test of an audit or a check or something to make sure that the dollars are done. So if we could have that as part of the next discussion with regards to these fees, I'd like to know a little bit more about the accounting and make sure that each campus is pretty much in line with those practices. So thank you.
Thank you, Regent Nystuen. That's a great point. Yeah, Regent Sexton.
Thank you, Chair Lozar. I would be in favor of pulling this item for discussion later. I think that given the public comment that we received, I think there's really a great opportunity to collaborate with the students. We spoke a little bit about how these really are, we're cleaning up policy. There's no hurry. I think it's really important that we get it right and that everyone is aware of how it works. And I think it's a great opportunity to work and make sure it is not, won't be perfect, but as close to perfect as we can get. So I'm in favor of taking this off the agenda.
Thank you, Regent Sexton. I think I'm seeing heads nodding kind of across the board. Perfect. We appreciate the public comment last night. That's very important to us, and we'll add this onto maybe the January agenda and work with the students to get this as close as we can to right. So thank you, Regent Dombrowski, for mentioning that. So we'll move on to action item C, tuition waivers and discounts. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Nystuen. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Any comments from the campuses? Is there any public comment? All right, seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to action item D, I'll entertain a motion to approve the use of plant funds for projects under $75,000.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Dombrowski. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from campuses? Is there any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I will move on to action item E, use of plant funds for projects over $75,000. Slightly different than the previous item. I will entertain a motion to approve. A move by Regent Sexton. Any discussion or questions from members of the board? Any discussion or corrections from campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Action item F, I will entertain a motion to approve rental and royalties. Moved by Regent Rogers. Any discussion or corrections from members of the board? From the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up is action item G. I will entertain a motion to approve the request to repeal Board of Regents Policy 901.12.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Dombrowski. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I will call for the vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Move on to action item H. I will entertain a motion to approve the request for approval to revise Board of Regents Policy 950.2. Moved by Regent Buchanan. Any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up is action item I. I'll entertain a motion to approve the request for approval to revise Board of Regents Policy 1002.2, Vehicle Policy and Procedures. Moved by Regent Nystuen. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up is action item J. I'll entertain a motion to approve request for approval to revise Board of Regents Policy 1000.4.1, naming of building projects. Moved by Regent Rogers. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Is there any discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up is action item K. I'll entertain a motion to approve the request for approval to revise Board of Regents Policy 1003.7, authorization for building projects.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Dombrowski. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? From the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Okay, seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Last in the Budget and Admin Audit Committee is action item L. I will entertain a motion to approve the transfer of interest in real property. Moved by Regent Sexton. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? From the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Okay, seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. The next committee is the two-year community college committee. We do not have any action items to consider this morning, so we will move on to to the Academic Research and Student Affairs Committee. We do have a consent agenda and 4 other action items.
We did 2 yesterday.
4 other action items, of which we did 2 yesterday. Thank you, Regent Nystuen. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
A move by Regent Dabrowski. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Discussion or corrections from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Regent Nystuen, for noting that we did action item A and B yesterday. So I will entertain a motion to approve action item C, request to plan proposals. Moved by Regent Sexton. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? From the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And last up on the action items for us to consider this morning is action item D. I'll entertain a motion to approve Montana Tech's new mission statement. Moved by Regent Buchanan. Is there any discussion or corrections from members of the board? Any discussion or comments from the campuses? Is there any public comment? Any public comments? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, board members, for getting through that. And thank you again, Regent Dabrowski, for noting that student-driven fees should be discussed a little further. Now we'll move on to 2 appeals that we have in front of us this morning. We'll start with appeal number 1. You have each received the commissioner's decision and the written appeal with supporting documents submitted by the student. The issue before the board is solely whether to hear the appeal at a later meeting. Our appeal policy does not require us to accept an appeal if we are satisfied with the commissioner's review and decision. The sole question is whether any regent believes the issues addressed in the commissioner's decision need further review by the board. If you do not wish to hear the appeal at the board level, it is not necessary to make a motion. A lack of motion or lack of action on our part will signify our decision not to hear the case. The appeal is confidential. The board will not address the student or individual involved by name, identity, or campus involved, or discuss the facts or specific issues. So are there any general questions as to this procedure before we consider this appeal? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to hear appeal number 1. Okay. There being no motion to hear this appeal, the request that we entertain the appeal is denied, and the Commissioner's decision is upheld. Moving on to the second appeal, appeal number 2. Are we clear with the procedure and the process? Yes? Okay. All right. In front of us is appeal number 2. I will entertain a motion to hear appeal number 2. Okay. There being no motion to hear this appeal, the request that we entertain this appeal is denied, and the Commissioner's decision is upheld. So, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Regents, I have to apologize. We are running 1 minute late. That's pretty good. Certainly wonderful to be in community with each and every one of you over the past couple days. We look forward to a wonderful afternoon with the Board of Education, as well as for many of us having the opportunity to spend time in Missoula this weekend and go to the festivities tomorrow. As is the case, as we do on all campuses, when we have the opportunity to come here, the final word is with the leadership on campus. So President Bodner, I'm happy to turn over the mic to you, and thanks again for hosting us over the last couple days.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, Regents, and colleagues. I will be brief, but I want to end the meeting where we started, which is by saying thank you. Thank you all for being here, and I especially want to thank the team at the University of Montana, our UC team here, our facilities team, our dining and catering team, our academic affairs team, the incredible members of my office team, our marketing and communications team for all these materials. As my fellow campus CEOs will attest, it is a lot of work to put on a meeting like this, and I am so grateful for the work of the entire family to welcome you here. So it has been our pleasure to have you here. It's so great to have you back here on campus. And since I do get the last word, I think maybe the last 2 words I'll end with, we can maybe predict they have to be Go Grizz.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.